What is up, RotoGrinders? My name is TJ Zwarich. I am your host for today's NBA Crunch Time. We got a quiet but still pretty decent NBA slate here ahead of us. I guess not quite on a news front. It just feels quiet because it's after NFL. Not many people here with us in the show, not many people playing NBA tonight, but that doesn't mean we can't take down some tournaments. I am joined by my friend and one of the greatest DFS minds in the industry, as Kevin Roth would say. Tim, how you doing?
Good man. We did quite well last Sunday when we were on the show. We pretty much, I mean, I hit the nuts. I won all my contests at first place and everything when I played NBA last Sunday. So let's see if we can do it again.
Let's lock and load and get it going again. I was just tilting a little bit when we were talking before this show here because my picks have been right on lately. There's just been one player really who breaks the slate that I don't have the exposure to. Paul George in NBA last night, Evan Ingram in NFL today. But for the most part, we've really been spot on here with how we think these slates are going to break down. So let's get into it. I got the screen share going here, but even though it's me, you're still going to be covering some cash games here for us. Before we get into the individual plays, what is your overview for this slate?
Well, we just got some big news, about, I don't know, half an hour before we came on about De'Aaron Fox being ruled out. So we definitely have got Davian Mitchell shot night. He's going to be your kind of plug and play, I think, everywhere on both sites. It's definitely I don't think it's like a multiple stud night. I think you can play one kind of big name, like real expensive person. But for the most part, there's no like super cheap players that I feel like really confident about. So for me anyway, I'm kind of sticking more into the 4K, 5K range for my value tonight.
Yeah, I think that's pretty similar to what I'm looking at today. There are a couple pieces for tournaments that I really like from a value standpoint. But I think we'll get you to cover cash, and then we'll kind of both tackle our tournament takes a little bit. But we will, and then we'll see what the people have here for questions. We'll tackle the questions in the RotoGrinders Discord page first, the NBA Crunch Time channel for our NBA members, premium members, I should say, and then we'll head over to the YouTube after that. We got 60 people watching. Give me 25 likes, and we can crush some questions in the YouTube chat as well. But before we do that, football, it's still going. And we hope you all participated in the Fanduel single entry series presented by RotoGrinders. Shout out to the winners from last Sunday's final day of contest. In first, we have TF Belongia, second BM Williams 24, and in third, Professional. They are professional if they're finishing in third. You can also sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state and take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to 1K. Terms and conditions apply, and you can use that no-sweat first bet with the newly integrated into the FanDuel Sportsbook, scoresandodds.com, your number one place for all things sports betting. Check it out for everything you need to make you a better sports bettor, including the Parlay IQ tool. Now with FanDuel Sportsbook optimization integration, you can bring your same game parlays based on thousands of simulated games worth of data. Click a single button, bring that bet slip into the FanDuel Sportsbook, make yourself a lot of money, especially with that no sweat first bet. If we look at cards as core plays here, Tim, he's got them updated for the news. He's on the ball this Sunday. You'll love to see it. Davion Mitchell at the point guard position. Bogdan Bogdanovic is in there as well. And we're also going to have Terry Rozier and James Harden. Before I just kind of click these positions in here on FanDuel, what do you think about a guy like Trae Young in cash games? Is he somebody you're looking to at that other point guard position before I slot in one of those other guys at the PG?
Yeah, I definitely think that Trae Young should be a core play on FanDuel. It's Trae Young and Davian Mitchell for me at point guard. I think that's pretty easy one.
So then, based on cards as core plays here, we have over the first half of our lineup kind of filled right out if we add in Trae Young for cash games. I think a lot of that makes sense. Before we moved on to the small forward position, is there any of these you kind of disagree with? Any of these you'd want to swap?
I don't know if I would. I don't know if I'm like a huge fan of Terry Rozier tonight. So, so he's certainly not a bad play, but I don't know if I would kind of put him up that high in terms of like core play status. But it's close for sure.
And I think like Cards lays it out here. He's playing the most minutes in the league lately, and he scored 30 plus fantasy points in 7 straight games. It's just a very safe cash floor with a guy like Terry Rozier, especially if we're wanting to play a Philly player in here like James Harden, maybe try and squeeze Embiid in. I think it kind of just it fits that mold of he's not really going to be the guy who burns your lineup, and it's kind of a nice little run back. If you're not going Rozier in that shooting guard spot, who are you going with? Is it somebody else in that range, or are you looking at somebody like a Markelle Fultz in the lower tier, or even or is Fultz only point guard eligible these days?
No, he's
shooting guard. Yeah, I thought I saw him there.
Yeah, on FanDuel he's PG SG, but on DK he's only point guard. But yeah,
oh yeah, there you go.
FanDuel,
I swapped to not by RG value. Are you looking to play Fultz there to save some salary? Are you looking to play Zach LaVine?
I'm kind of more looking at Zach LaVine over Rozier. That's kind of where I'm thinking. That's kind of where I was gonna say instead of Rozier, I'd rather save the $200 and play LaVine. But we're kind of splitting hairs, right? I mean, Rozier certainly isn't bad, but right now I have LaVine in over Rozier.
I think that makes sense. And I mean, on a slate like this, that could, in cash games specifically, that could be the difference between the line and the not. A player like Zach LaVine versus Terry Rozier, both of them at around 25 to 30%. The difference of that might be the difference on who cashes in cash and who doesn't. I think I actually like LaVine there as well if I were to choose one or the other.
And I think that it correlates well because you're going to be playing Hawks today.
Exactly.
So, like, I mean, we haven't gotten to it, but we will. We're going to talk about Clint Capella. He's going to be a very popular choice at the center position. We've already plugged in Trae Young. We've already plugged in Bogdanovich. Like, we need a Chicago player. And so I think that person's going to be LaVine. Or it could be DeMar, but for right now, we'll go with LaVine.
And so let's actually shoot straight to the center position here because that is a big decision point on what we want to do for the rest of our entire lineups here, because we look at the RG value. We got Clint Capella, 32% ownership. Domantas Sabonis is picking up heavy ownership as well. I feel like Capella's kind of the guy we're just going to roll here with in cash games. Still no John Collins, a big body like Vucevic on the other end. He's probably going to have to play some minutes here.
Yeah, Capella's definitely your cash game choice. If you're not worried about ownership, then play Capella. I like Mitchell Robinson quite a bit for tournaments. I think that, he's a perfect fit for FanDuel scoring just because of the stocks. So I think he makes a really interesting pivot. I think you could play him with Randall even. I really like this game as far as I'm concerned. For tournaments, there's basically 2 games on the slate: Atlanta, Chicago, and Sacramento, New York. Those are my 2 favorite games. Yes, there's obviously other one-off plays that you can make on the slate, but those are my 2 favorite games. So any kind of exposure that I can get that with people that are going to be playing minutes in those games, I'm going to be a fan of.
I think that makes complete sense here. And then so we're not going to plug in the core spots because we basically filled out a whole lineup here for you for cash games. I do think it's interesting to note, though, that Zach LaVine is small forward eligible. So if you want to play both Rozier and LaVine, you can. That's still a reasonable option here if you want to put in LaVine at the small forward position. Who else are you looking to here at the small forward? Because if we're playing LaVine at shooting guard, we already got Bogdan in here. You paying down with Patrick Williams? You going with DeMar DeRozan, just full game stack in that game? How are we doing it?
I probably can't get to DeMar as much as I'd like to. But yeah, Patrick Williams is my guy. Or if you don't need to go that far down, then it's Gary Trent. But Gary Trent's, we'll get to it, but Gary Trent's price on DK is a lot better. But yeah, it's definitely for me right now in my lineup. I got Patrick Williams and Bogdan in the small forward position.
I like it. I got a beautiful lineup right now that I really like, but it has 4 Chicago players and no Clint Capella, so that kind of scares me a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm going to
No,
finalize it.
I don't think that's that bad for a tournament.
No?
I, I don't think so.
Moving over to the power forward position here because it's a spot that I don't really love outside of our pay up guys. Like in tournaments, if you want to play Anthony Davis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Pascal Siakam, I think all of those are phenomenal options. In cash, we're looking at Sabonis, we're looking at Randall, or we're looking to pay down here at the power forward position. I just realized I was looking at my laptop, and that's not the where it's screen shared. Or we could we're looking at Sabonis or Randall, or we could be looking to pay down all the way to somebody like a Patrick Williams. What do you think here of the power forward position?
Yeah, power forward is not great. My two favorites are Sabonis and Randall. But I really wanted to get to Siakam, Pascal Siakam, but I just couldn't do it. Obviously, if you have the money, you could go to AD or Giannis, but I just don't see that as a viable strategy tonight. So I had to stick with a little bit lower and go with Sabonis and Randall. Williams would be my favorite play. DeAndre Hunter was a game time decision, but now he's in. I think he's at least somewhat interesting in the mid range at 5,300 on FanDuel. He doesn't have a very high usage, but he can put up some strong peripherals, so I don't mind him. And I also don't mind PJ Washington for tournament.
Yeah, he's a guy that's projecting here well. Also, before we swap over to DraftKings, some tournament plays that I like quite a bit today at the guard position. I really like these Bulls players as pivots off of the Fultzes and the Davion Mitchells or alongside of them. But Ayo Dosunmu and Kobe White are two guys today that I am very interested to getting to in tournaments, especially Kobe White. I think if he gets hot, he could have a very big ceiling here. And even if this turns into a blowout one way or the other, he's probably still going to be quite involved there. Moving over to the forward positions here, this is kind of where I'm looking to eat chalk at the small forward shooting position, like Bogdanovich, Levine, DeRozan, and Patrick Williams. Like, I'm with you at that game. I like it quite a bit. And then if I'm not going there, I kind of like these Sacramento, New York guys. I don't hate the idea of taking a shot on Barnes or a Keegan Murray, even a Quentin Grimes in this spot, I think is reasonable. And then at the power forward.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you got it.
I'm glad you brought up Kobe White because he's the avenue for you to get like a big stud, like an AD or Giannis. He's the type of guy that you're gonna have to punt with to get to like a super high end stud. You're gonna have to like double punt with Mitchell and then go with White or something like that. I didn't feel comfortable doing that, but I'm more of just like a single entry cash player. But for tournaments, that's your avenue to getting like a really high end player, and I think that's a really good play.
So he's the one that would give me the ability to get Joel Embiid. And that's what we're going to talk. We're going to, because it's going to be a slow day for questions, stuff like that. We do have enough likes for us to hit over to the YouTube chat for questions, but we will be doing that shortly after we hit DK. But I do got a couple FanDuel build questions I'll ask you here, and we'll see how we can kind of prioritize this for people. But to be honest with you, also for me, because I'm having trouble. I only got the one lineup, and I'm not sure who I want to prioritize it with here. I'm looking at the potential options to be able to play Embiid at the center position, and then Markelle Fultz as my last piece at guard, or I can go with Julius Randle and DeMar DeRozan, which is currently my favorite way of doing it. But then there's also the potential opportunity to downgrade Julius Randle down to a chalkier Clint Capella, bump my DeMar DeRozan up to James Harden, so I still have some exposure to that Philly game, And then that would also allow me to get to another tournament play at the power forward position I like quite a bit today. No OG Anunoby. That's Chris Boucher.
Yeah. Chris Boucher is a really good tournament play. I think if I was playing a lot of teams, I would be trying to get away from Capella just because he's always so popular and like his floor is super, super safe, but like I really honestly question his ceiling, especially at super high ownership. I really like the idea of getting to Embiid. I think that's like a really good way of getting different. That's like if you were looking to like shit first place, then that would be kind of my avenue would be to get to Embiid at center on FanDuel.
Yeah, it just doesn't leave me in love with kind of this last piece position here. But we'll see.
Markel Fultz was my favorite value play basically up until we got Davion Mitchell. So
I just realized I think I'm going to go back to my original build, which has me just swapping these positions around here a little bit. And I'm going with, I still get my Chris Boucher in there in tournaments who I like. And I'm just moving over Patrick Williams to the small forward, Bogdanovich to shooting guard. And I get to play some Embiid. I'm not changing it. I'm keeping it what I had before the show. Let's pivot over to DraftKings, and then we'll answer some QQs for the people here. Make sure you're hitting the like button for us. Are there any big discrepancies, big changes for you tonight from DraftKings versus FanDuel? Davion Mitchell's a little bit cheaper, and he's got that positional flexibility. I like cards as core tag here with Fred VanVleet. I'm on the same page there. I think he is a great play for cash games today just because he's got a safe floor, a high ceiling, and that price tag is just so cheap. So if we plug in Mitchell, Bogdanovich, and then it also has James Harden here at the guard position. What do you feel about that? Any agree, disagree, strong takes here? Are you prioritizing James Harden or Trae Young at that guard position, or Gary Trent?
Well, I'm going Trae Young and Gary Trent, Mitchell and Bogdanovich.
So we're leaving out James Harden.
Yeah, I mean, but that's certainly fine though. Like if you want to go James Harden, then I mean, how can I can't really argue with that. It's just, it's a great spot. I just like Trae Young more, and it's hard for me the way that I'm building my team to do Young and Harden because there's so many other value guards. So and I think FEV is a priority. That's way too cheap. So I think you got to play Fred VanVleet. So I'm leaving out Harden, but I don't have the same kind of conviction as about leaving out Rozier on FanDuel. Like Harden's a really good play.
So it's basically this simple. You're starting your lineup here. VanVleet, Mitchell, Bogdanovich, 3 guys playing right at 6 o'clock, so you don't have to worry about, I mean, it's not like there's anything till 7 anyways, but 3 guys right at the start, and then you're using your guard and your utility for 2 of these 3 players in cash games today, and that's Trae Young, James Harden, and Gary Trent Jr. It just depends on how you want to sort out your lineup, but you're using 2 of those 3 because it's not even necessarily guaranteed to be a Gary Trent, because if you want to go Harden and Trae Young, that's actually doable in this spot. It just means you're sacrificing a guy like Domantas Sabonis. But before we get to the center position where he is today, who do you like at power forward for cash games? You paying up for the above 10K to Pascal Siakam, or you wanting to stick in this mid tier?
I'd like to get Siakam, but I can't. I'm just gonna go Gary Trent and FEV for my Toronto exposure, and then I'm gonna go Julius Randle in my power forward spot.
Julius Randle, 8,300 as a power forward spot. I like that as well. And then if I was going to pay down, I think I'd be looking at a guy like Patrick Williams at that spot today, 3,700. If you're going a little more stars and scrubsy, trying to get Harden and Trae Young in there at the center position. I mean, it's Sabonis, right? Or is it Capella?
At center, I have Sabonis.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you're unable to get to Sabonis because you're prioritizing Trae Young and Trae Young and James Harden today in your cash game. However, I feel like Sabonis is the guy you want to go with there. We see that RG value. Who else do you think are the options here? Siakam obviously is there as well. Clint Capella is still fine on DraftKings, even though he's a bit stronger on FanDuel. And then from a pay down spot, I think the answer is you just simply don't. Like if you're doing the Trae Young and James Harden route, I think you have to try and get to Clint Capella, and you're looking at the rest of your lineup here and just say like, hey, is this doable? Yeah, it is. We were looking before at guys like Patrick Williams, potentially at the power forward. Then all I need is to find a little value here. So that way is doable as well. But if you're not going,
I would
Sabonis,
say don't.
Capella.
I would say don't go lower than Mitchell Robinson.
I do like Robinson as like a near optimal build type setting, but playing him in a cash setting always does scare me a little bit. But 5,200 for Mitch Rob, it is a good price against the Sacramento team. He's in a good spot, but against Sabonis, I just see him getting into foul trouble today. I think Sabonis is going to be a little too strong offensively for him, and I worry a little bit about Mitch Rob today. But other guys for tournaments I like, and then we will hit some QQs here. We touched on a lot of them are the same on FanDuel, but a couple I didn't mention before, especially at this power forward position that's nice and weak. It's Mo Wagner. Mo Wagner against the Raptors, I think, is a very strong tournament option. Chris Boucher here, he's even cheaper than he is on FanDuel with that power forward eligibility. If you're going to play DeAndre Hunter, I'd rather do it here on DraftKings where he's 4,600 as opposed to FanDuel where he's 5,300. And that basically rounds it out today. Same thing as before. Like if you want to play Anthony Davis or Giannis Antetokounmpo today, you're going to be very different, and not many people are going to be doing it. The one thing I'd say is if you're going to play Giannis, run it back. Play Şengün or Jalen Green or Kevin Porter Jr., something like that, because if Giannis is going to be optimal on this slate, that probably means that they don't completely blow them out. This should be a high enough scoring slate that the whole get there in 3/4 thing probably won't work for him today. So if you're playing some Giannis, I would say run it back with some Houston. Shifting over to QQs, looking at the NBA Crunch Time Discord first. I'm torn between Kobe White and Trent Forrest as my cheapie. I do like those Chicago guards tonight. I think that's Kobe White by a mile, because the thing with Trent Forrest is DeAndre Hunter's back, so those minutes that he got last game aren't anywhere near guaranteed.
Yeah, it's definitely Kobe White.
FanDuel single entry, how many studs are we paying up for? I think the answer is 2, but like it kind of depends on how you want to call them studs, because if like by studs on FanDuel, you can go Trae Young, Domantas Sabonis, and James Harden. All of those guys are below 10K, and it still leaves you for other options there. So I think it kind of depends on what you want to quantify as a stud today on FanDuel. But Carolina guy's saying, is he crazy for having 3 kings in his single entry lineup on FanDuel?
No, definitely not. I think that's completely fine.
I don't think that's crazy either. I personally am looking more so just to target 2. But I don't think that's crazy by any means. Some other tournament kings options that I think could be potentially really strong that we didn't touch on. Terrence Davis, especially on DraftKings, 3,200. That's somebody I would love taking a shot on in tournaments. We're only projecting him for 14 minutes. He's coming off of an injury, but if he gets 20, he could break the slate at 3-2 today. Keegan Murray, I like that DraftKings price tag for him quite a bit as well.
And don't forget about Harrison Barnes too.
I want to forget about Harrison Barnes. I think on DraftKings, I will forget about Harrison Barnes because I can play Murray for way cheaper, or Malik Monk or Kevin Huerter at a different position. But on FanDuel, where Murray's priced up a little bit, Terrence Davis is priced up, Malik Monk, you can only play at shooting guard, and Kevin Huerter is about $800 more. Yeah, I won't forget about Harrison Barnes. Switching over to the YouTube chat. Let's look up here a little bit. A lot of people we're updating some lineups, people saying what's up. Got destroyed in NFL today. We don't have many QQs. Any love for Şengün? Not super, but I would probably try and get overweight if I was playing 150, and I would like pairing him with Giannis. How about you?
Yeah, I would pair him, and I want to hear your thoughts. What about Chris Middleton?
How many minutes did Middleton get last game? Last game? Let's look at him here. 6'4". He got up to 31 minutes in his last game. I'm gonna say no, just because at that price tag with low 30s minutes, and I don't see them pushing that against Houston.
True.
I don't think the ceiling is high enough, but I think we have to immediately start looking at Middleton as an option at that price.
Yeah,
Either
we're
like
running.
very small
That's
slate or
kind of
just
what I was
closer
thinking.
spread.
Right, right. We're kind of like running out of time to play him. So it's like I
Mm-hmm.
know that he's gonna pop off for our 50 burger here soon. So I don't know. I probably won't be tonight, but I think we're kind of having to look at him next time.
I think we got to look at him for one of two things: either a small slate where they're like it's a remotely close game environment, or a big slate where he goes under the radar, where Drew or Giannis is sitting, and just because it's such a big slate, people aren't really looking towards there yet. But DK Cash, who do you like? Julius Randle and Kelly Oubre, or Pascal Siakam and Jalen McDaniels?
The first one, but I think we could. I think you could find someone better than Oubre and Cash.
You playing any? You making any bets today for NBA, or do you got any hot takes for the NFL game tonight before we get out of here?
I think that there's going to be 45 points scored in the first half.
I think that's reasonable. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. Two mediocre defenses, two very strong offenses, a lot of really talented skill players here. I think that adds up. The one thing I would say is, like, I guess Oubre is projecting really well here. And if you look at this range, like, who would you choose if you have to choose between, assuming they have that $100, Oubre, Scotty Barnes, and Jalen Green? According to our projections, it's Oubre by about 3 points.
True. I agree with that definitely. I don't know. I'd rather kind of maybe go down to like RJ Barrett and then up somewhere else.
Or try and find another way to go down somewhere else and get up that extra $600 to Zach LaVine, or even, like, I wouldn't say it's crazy to go up an extra $300 for Paolo Banchero. I actually don't think that's a bad price for him whatsoever going up against the Raptors today. No more QQs in the YouTube. Heading back to the Discord, no more QQs there as well. You got anything else for the people here, Tim, or are we going to be out of here a couple minutes early?
I think we're good to go. The slate is, there was no breaking news or anything, so I think we're good.
Somebody did bring up a decent point in chat that I want to touch on here. Javonte Green is available to play today. Coming off the bench, he's listed as available. He has been out. Yes, Caruso is out here, which is why we like the Kobe Whites, maybe even Ayo Dosunmu's. But are you at all worried about a guy like Patrick Williams' minutes with Javonte Green back?
Not really. I understand the question, but I think Williams will be okay. Even if he gets docked a couple minutes, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal.
Yeah, and just there's not that much in, like, below him that I would rather go to here. Like, I'm not trying to play Terrence Ross, Justin Holiday, Green, or Reddish, something like that. So there's no one else really in that range that I think I'd want to play, unless you want to get to somebody like Pat Connaughton instead. So I'm looking at Fanduel right now, and so I think he kind of is still one of the better plays in that spot.
Yeah.
And so I got no issue with rolling with him here, unless you think the Lakers are going to blow out the Detroit, and so you want to take a Kevin Knox shot, something like that. And in large field stuff, I actually don't hate that idea. But that will do it for this edition of NBA Crunch Time. We got squad hopping back on here to go over the NFL pre-lock show here before the NFL game, so make sure you tune into that one. Who do we got here coming up over there? Pre-lock show where is it? Sunday. STL and Will. STL and Chief Justice coming on to help you take down a tournament this week. Oh, I was so close to. I was shipping the big GPP on Fanduel the entire second half of that game until the last Rams touchdown on the last showdown slate. That was tough one to stomach.
Yeah,
Kobe White and James Harden. So one more question before we get out of here. Kobe White and James Harden. I've tilted enough to you today. You don't need to keep listening to me sob. Kobe White and James Harden or Gary Trent and Zach LaVine on DraftKings?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I personally like the second one better, but both are good. I like the Trent LaVine one.
I do Trent LaVine for cash. I would do White Harden for tournaments.
Yeah.
No more questions here over on YouTube. That will do it for this edition of Crunch Time. Tune in for the NBA Pre-Lock Show with Cards and Will later this evening. On behalf of myself, Tim, our awesome producer, Steve, you have been crunched.